There are people who move through the world as if every step is an intrusion.
People who whisper instead of speak.
Who say sorry, not because they did something wrong, but because they believe they are something wrong. You've seen them. Or maybe you've been one of them. The kind of person who feels the need to shrink, soften, and smooth the edges of their presence, so no one else feels discomfort.
They apologize when someone bumps into them.
They apologize when stating a preference.
They apologize for the space they take.
The emotions they feel, the needs that rise quietly inside them like small waves no one else is meant to notice.
And to the outside world, it might look harmless.
Just politeness. Just humility. Just someone who doesn't want to cause trouble. But underneath, something far heavier is happening. Something learned, something inherited.
Something shaped by years of trying to be small enough to be safe.
This is the psychology of people who apologize for existing. It starts with a feeling many never put into words, the quiet ache of believing that being seen is a burden. These people move through life with a sensitivity so delicate that even the slightest tension in a room can make them feel responsible.
A sigh from someone else, a shift in tone,
a moment of irritation that wasn't meant for them, yet somehow becomes their fault. They recognize disappointment in micro-expressions. They anticipate rejection before it arrives.
And they preempt conflict by offering themselves as the reason it began.
Sorry. A single word used not as a statement, but as a shield.
Because to them, apology is protection.
It softens the world. It neutralizes threats. It gives them a sense of control in situations where they otherwise feel none. But this habit is not born from politeness. It is born from emotional self-preservation. Somewhere in their early story, the message was planted: your feelings are secondary.
Your needs are dangerous. Your existence must be moderated so others don't pull away.
Maybe it came from a household where emotions were explosive, where anger could arrive without warning, and the only way to stay safe
was to stay quiet.
Maybe it came from caretakers who were overwhelmed, stressed,
or detached.
So the child learned that asking for anything made them too much.
Or maybe it came from being the peacemaker in a family,
where someone else's chaos shaped everyone's behavior. In these environments, a child learns to scan for danger, not with their eyes, but with their intuition. They become experts in reading moods,
experts in avoiding disappointment,
experts in stepping aside before anyone even asks them to. And over time, they begin to associate their presence with potential disruption. So they shrink, they overthink, they apologize, not for what they've done,
but for who they are.
Psychologists often describe this pattern as a form of hypervigilance, a survival mechanism rooted in early relational dynamics.
When a child repeatedly receives the message
that affection, stability, or approval depends on their behavior,
their nervous system adapts.
The brain learns to prioritize harmony over authenticity, to seek safety through compliance,
to anticipate the emotional weather of everyone nearby.
Over time, this becomes a conditioned response. The amygdala, responsible for detecting threat, becomes overly sensitive, activating even when no real danger exists.
Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex attempts to soothe the fear
by creating behaviors that guarantee acceptance. Apology becomes one of those behaviors, a way to preemptively smooth over the possibility of conflict, even at the cost of one's own emotional truth. This is why people who apologize excessively
often feel anxiety even when nothing is wrong. Their body has learned that safety comes from self-blame.
And paradoxically, this chronic self-blame becomes a twisted form of control. If everything is their fault,
then they can fix everything.
Or at least, they can believe they can. But this belief comes with a cost.
They lose sight of the fact that they, too, are allowed to be human.
As they grow older, the conflict becomes internal.
Part of them knows they are tired. tired of saying sorry for being tired,
Sorry for needing rest. Sorry for not always knowing what to say.
there is a quiet resentment, often unspoken,
Because they give so much emotional labor and receive so little recognition for it. Yet another part of them clings to the apology, because without it they feel exposed, vulnerable, unprotected. This is the tug of war inside them,
the desire to be seen.
and the fear of being seen at the same time. They want connection, but fear that closeness will reveal their imagined flaws.
They want freedom,
But fear that freedom will disappoint others. They want to speak, but fear that speaking will break something fragile.
so they remain suspended between who they are and who they think they must be to be loved.
And in that suspension, the apology becomes a familiar anchor, a soft tether to the safety of invisibility. The realization often comes quietly,
Not as a dramatic moment,
but as a gentle recognition that the apology no longer protects them, that it keeps them small in situations where they long to grow, that the world they fear disappointing is not the world that truly sees them. Maybe someone tells them,
you don't have to say sorry.
and for a moment the words land somewhere unexpected, somewhere deep,
Or they notice how much of their life has been shaped.
by the avoidance of imagined harm, how many times they silenced their needs,
To preserve a peace that wasn't theirs to protect.
and they begin to see that the apology was not a sign of kindness. It was a sign of stored fear.
The turning point is not confidence.
It is clarity.
The clarity that their existence was never the problem. Healing for people who apologize for existing.
Does not come from forcing themselves to stop.
It comes from understanding why they started. The work is subtle, slow,
Interior.
It begins with noticing the apology,
The moment it rises to the surface.
not judging it, not suppressing it, just recognizing that it is an old reflex, not a present truth.
Over time, they begin to rebuild a sense of safety.
That comes from authenticity, not avoidance. They start speaking in small ways. I need a moment. I'm not okay with that. I feel differently.
Simple sentences that their childhood never taught them to say.
Their nervous system gradually learns. That conflict is not catastrophe. That needs do not make them a burden. That presence is not a threat to others. And slowly, they step into a new kind of existence. One that does not rely on apology as armor.
This is not about becoming louder. It is about becoming real.
In the end, people who apologize for existing
Are not weak.
or broken or overly sensitive. They are people who learn to survive
In environments that did not know how to hold their softness.
Their apology was never about guilt. It was about fear,
Fear of rejection.
fear of conflict, fear of needing too much in a world that taught them to want less.
But as they begin to understand their own psychology,
Something shifts. The apology becomes a choice, not a reflex.
their voice becomes steadier.
Their presence becomes fuller, and their sense of self expands into the places where they once only allowed shadows. Because the truth is simple and profound. A person never needed to apologize for being here.
For existing.
For taking up space in a world.
That is wide enough for all of us. And when they finally realize that,
When they truly feel it.
their silence softens, their shoulders lift, and they begin to inhabit a life. They no longer feel sorry for living.